Hey guys. Okay. So I'm gonna start off by saying this much honestly. I think just this singular episode in itself pretty much surpassed the source material of the manga in every way. Like it took the source material and elevated that shit. Like that's how kind of I feel. Like I'm kind of a bit of I might not show it openly, but I'm a little bit of an emotional wreck after watching this episode. Um Okay, so seeing how this is the final episode of season one, I may as well start with my overall thoughts on it and expectations going into season two. And I'll start by saying I really liked it. And one thing I will say that I really liked specifically about this first season, in comparable to a lot of other first seasons of anime, is normally they spend a lot of their time solely focused on building up the world. And while that is still quite a bit the case here, I feel what does separate Eden Zero's first season is that we got a lot of great development within this first season as well, and it does feel like the characters are going into the next season as different people compared to how they started the series out, while obviously still having a lot more growing to do, which for me is somewhat of a breath of fresh air compared to other seasons of anime, where I leave those first seasons having this feeling that characters have changed a little bit, but also largely feeling like their major development is being saved for future seasons compared to here where it feels like these characters have gone through whole character arcs and whole character arcs and it still feels like there's more to come. Now, with that said, one area I definitely think this season could have been better is an obvious one just from just looking at the season 2 preview, which is that in retrospect, it could have used a bit of a bigger animation budget because there are a lot of moments throughout season 1 that definitely are rough around the edges. But I guess you also kind of expect that with any first season, and in any studio, like in any way you slice it, the studio in charge is not going to blow its a big budget on a first season, no matter how popular the series is. But even then, I can still see a lot of effort and attempt to work within that limitation. I think the only thing that I'm still sour about even to this day is something I've brought up a lot, which is the planetary design. And yeah, I won't rant on that any longer. Uh, Now, with that said, the way the episode ended was somehow both how I expected it to, and yet not, because the way it officially ended more or less is with Witch and Ivory grieving, sharing a vulnerable moment over Valkyrie's death. It was all very poignant and honestly the perfect way to cap off season one. And while I think that is the better way to I think that is the better way to end off season two, where I found myself a little surprised by the ending is we didn't get more of a lead into the events of season two other than Jame's narration and I guess that preview. Like you'd think that would be something they would really want to build up, but maybe because the series was airing on Netflix, they weren't 100% sure whether it would gain enough traffic to warrant that second season. But supposedly with the news, we are in fact getting a second season. But I think within this, I think that they played it a little safer just in case. Although that just means although again with the news of us getting a second season, that just means we're going to be hitting the ground running once season two does hit. If it's and honestly, when I review season two, one thing I will be doing a lot of is checking the comment section each new episode that's released on whatever streaming site I'm using to watch it, because it's season two of Eden Zero is going to be one of those seasons where you actually kind of want to see people's reactions to what happens, because as Jame says, they'll not only find themselves in conflict with Dragon Joe, but it's also the first time that Eden Zero kind of pretty much breaks away from any kind of ties that people will think it has to Fairy Tail. And yeah, it's one of those where you kind of want to see people's reactions to every single moment, especially with, and even more than that, obviously, with what we get from, yeah, that preview again. Of course, I gotta say, just within this singular episode, you can tell the studio wanted to go all out with a fucking bang because art, animation, production value, just everything about this episode as a whole was off the charts. Like again, I said this already, but this is one of those final episodes of a season that pretty much took the source material and amped it up to a stellar degree. Like I felt even more of those same emotions. I felt all those same emotions I did from reading the manga, and even more so. Like that's how good just this final episode was. Uh, with that said, obviously one of the bigger things is Homura pretty much gets her closure in this final episode by coming face to face with her real mother, Kurenai Kogetsu. And I love how she expresses her feelings towards Kurenai by the end of it. Like, by the end of it all, when she looks at her, she doesn't see her mother. All she sees is the person who gave birth to her and killed her mentor, Valkyrie. The only one she ever really saw as her mother. And one thing I love is how karma came back full circle for Kurenai, and like not just with the people, but with Homura as well. In that single moment where Homura and Kurenai are face to face with each other, Homura flat out rejected everything having obviously we know Kurenai, she rejected everything to do with Homura and wanted nothing to do with her. And now in this moment, in Kurenai's most desperate and vulnerable moment, asking for help, begging for forgiveness from Homura, Homura straight up gives back the doll her mother gave her as her way of saying, I reject you and everything you are, and I never want to see you again, which I loved it in the manga, and I fucking relished every moment of it here. Like, there's just no room for forgiveness, and Kurenai shouldn't be. Kurenai was never there for her, and when Homura needed someone to be there for her the most, when no one else was, it was Valkyrie. It was Valkyrie who took up that burden, looked out for Homura, trained her, taught her the lessons of life no one else was there to teach her. Valkyrie was everything she had sought out in a mother, something Kurenai never was. And I also like the idea that Valkyrie's will is now being carried on through Homura, and that even though Valkyrie is gone and Homura has grown beyond her grief, Shiki and the others are there to pick up that slack and be her emotional rock. Like the Eden Zero crew are like she's pretty much gone from Valkyrie being her mother to the Eden Zero being her family. Like the Eden Zero are her family now, and I love that. I love that transition. Like it just feels so natural. As I said, one thing I also liked about this episode is seeing Witch and Ivory specifically grieve over Valkyrie's death. And one thing I never fully appreciated about Valkyrie's death before is just how much it stuck because even though Witch did say that they could have the capability, they do have the capability to bring her back, it's another thing entirely for the memories themselves to be recreated, as they have the backup data in regards to her, as they don't have any backup data in regards to Valkyrie's time with Homura. If they had brought her back, all that would be lost, showing that even if machines can be rebuilt, even if their memories, all their personalities can be reprogrammed into a body, there are still limitations to that. Nothing like death is just as much of a reality for machines as it is for humans. Like nothing is truly forever, and I love how that did carry over into the idea of Homura taking over Valkyrie's role as a Sword of Eden, showing her willingness to carry on her master's legacy. And I'll admit, looking back, it's a lot more obvious now that that's the route Majin was going, looking at the whole narrative of this first season through like when Homura was first introduced to like this point and specifically, and especially once we got to Mildian, like a lot of what I chalked up at the time as just like confusing, or just asking myself the question of, okay, what exactly is Mashima doing here? Like a lot of what I had thought what was going on, what was happening, what I was just making guesses about at the time, a lot of it makes a lot more sense now. Like I'm surprised I never saw a lot of this before, but it does make a lot more sense now. And guys, what else can I say? This was honestly one of the best ways to end the first season, and I am like so ready for season 2. Like I need season. I know I don't know when it's going to happen, honestly, but I need season 2 very soon. Like I need it now. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to hit the notification bell with the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys. Eden Zero, you went out with a bang.